Joining me now is former 2024 GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek, it seems like everything is upside down in Joe Biden's America.
Look, I think that the battle line right now, Laura, is we're in the middle of a war in this country between a majority of us in this nation who love our country and our basic shared values and a fringe minority who has the Democratic Party in a chokehold, who hate the United States of America and everything we stand for. And I do call it a war because they're weaponizing one element of our system after another, justice system, financial system, media, to advance their objectives. And so I think conservatives need to wake up and say that, you know what, the left has been far ahead for a long time on frontiers that conservatives haven't paid great care to protect, the justice system and the financial system amongst them. But I do think that we're going to have to think over the longer run, not just the short run of this next election, if we're actually going to reclaim one standard of the rule of law in this country, one standard of maximizing value in financial markets and the media while we're at it.
Well, you have to get power. Well, you have to get power back.
Yep.
You have to win elections in order to make changes. So I think
That's
this
right.
election is absolutely critical to doing that. I want your reaction, Vivek, to what happened today when a mother in Boston was asked about the consequences of what was the political decision made to close a recreation center, which is used by a lot of, at-risk kids and others, to house migrants, and where those kids would end up going. Watch this.
Probably to the streets, where most of them are already at. Like when we look for help, it seems like the state and the governor and them people, they push us away. They want to turn our children to animals. We want better for our community, but this right here is going to be a show.
Well, Vivek, I know a lot of Republicans think, well, there's no point in trying to go after some of these voting blocks of people who have been traditionally Democrats. I completely disagree with that. I think African Americans, many of them, seem to be looking around and saying, wait a second, this is not what I bargained for.
Absolutely. And in fact, in my campaign, I did buck the advice of my consultants to go to the south side of Chicago, to go to the inner city of Philadelphia and Kensington. And what I saw, Laura, was widespread agreement on what are America First principles. Forget Republican versus Democrat. But the idea that we should use our own resources in this country to protect our own border when they're converting South Shore High School in the south side of Chicago to an encampment for migrants at $7,000 per migrant per month. That's offensive regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat or black or white. And so I do see an opportunity, to your point about the importance of winning this election. Not only can we win this election, I think we can win this in a landslide of a historic margin like Reagan did for the second term in 1984. I think Trump can for his second term in 2024. To say that, you know what, you're going to bring along a multi-ethnic working class coalition, man, woman, black, white, Democrat, and even Republican, independents alike, to say that a nation has borders. America First means all Americans, not just the ones who agree with us on every other issue. And I think if we approach this that way, we're going to have, I think, a historic landslide this November that, dare I say it, could unite this country. But it's up to us to step up and seize it, not just to hide from that, as I think the Republican Party has been prone to do for a long time. We have to show up. And I think that's the first step. And if we do, we'll be rewarded.
Vivek, I think not accepting the political narrative of the left as gospel, and, a lot of times Republicans will shrink the second they're attacked by the left. And PBS just did that documentary exposing what was really going on with how the January 6th, production was created in the committee looking into January 6th. Watch this.
The one thing that we knew was the information that we have is compelling. The thing we needed to do was tell that to the American people in a compelling way. So that's why we brought in a former president of ABC News.
They wanted a storyteller. And while they were brilliant lawyers, storytelling for a mass audience is not what they do.
They admit they brought in a, quote, storyteller. Yeah.
It's straight out of George Orwell's playbook is the reality. As George Orwell will be rolling over in his grave, to see them selecting figures from the media, they realize that's actually more powerful. Even though they're controlling the levers of power in D.C., the thing they cared most about, Laura, was the narrative that they wanted to drive, not just the selective disclosure of the facts of what didn't or didn't happen that day, but the spin they put on it for the public to consume. But it's up to us now, Laura, not just to point to that problem and say, hey, it's a top-down issue. I think part of the problem is we as a people also have become sheep. And I think it's up to every American across the board to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we're not going to swallow what we are force-fed. A nation of sheep does breed a government of wolves. And so, yes, it is the job of political leaders to fix that government. But I think it's also the job of everybody who's watching this program right now, every citizen at home,
you bet,
to look themselves in the mirror and say, how do we not swallow what we're force-fed either? And it's going to take both of those things to get this country back.
Yeah, we saw it during COVID, and we're seeing it now. And Vivek, great to see you as always. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.